Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about primetime matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
And we are live here on Night Shift. Boy, are we fired up here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eric Lopez. That's Andrew Gluchov. That's Kyle Nash. We are here. We just, of course, have here our official word. The UCF Knights are going bowling. They're going in Gasparilla Bowl against the Florida Gators. It's true. It's true. It has happened. Coming up, we're going to get your reaction, folks. Are you excited about this game? Are you nervous about this game? What is going to be your reaction? We're going to hear Drew and Kyle's initial thoughts on this game. We want to make sure you send us your comments on Twitter, on Facebook. We're live on all of those, and YouTube as well. That's why you should subscribe to YouTube. Follow us on the Twitter, and of course, like us on Facebook. blackandgoldbanneret.com. Check out all the latest. We were the first, once again, for the second year in a row. Black and Gold Banneret was the first outlet to have UCF in the correct bowl placement 2 years in a row. Last year,
Eric, you got this one right.
Wait, I got this one right, yes.
Do we have the correct name on who got it right? I'm just checking.
I do. It was me.
It's either Eric Lopez or Eric Lopez.
That's correct.
I am, not to be confused with the star of our time, which maybe we'll get down another
Eric Lopez.
Time. But there you go. But anyway, so we want your thoughts on this. We have a big breakdown. We're also going to talk about announce some of the content we'll be doing. We're going to be doing a lot of coverage of this game because, guys, here's my initial thoughts. I'm excited. I'm not the biggest bowl guy. I think there's too much political stuff. We don't get games we normally want. I think we overplay this stuff. It's an exhibition. That said, who gives a bleep? It's UCF in Florida. Let the fun begin. These two schools, these two fan bases are going to talk trash. It's going to be a packed house. Congrats to Gasparilla. They're the big winner in this. That place is going to be packed. And this is going to be fun. Both fan bases are going to downplay. They're going to say, oh, it doesn't matter until they win, and then they're going to talk smack. So bring it on. I think this is will be the most watched non-New Year's 6 UCF bowl game in the history of the Orlando market. That's my bold prediction on that. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Drew, your thoughts?
I as I've said before, low and mid-tier bowls need a hook. They need a story. And this was by far one of the best stories to go with is making a Sunshine State thing. There's already built-in animosity. Florida, the establishment, UCF, the upstart. And, add a little intrigue. UCF's moving themselves up to the Power 5 in potentially a couple years, depending if they can negotiate it out. What a way to send a message of saying, hey, watch out for us. We're going to become the big dogs in the state of Florida. This is a step in that direction.
Yeah, well, and it's a win for the Gasparilla, too. If you go down the list of the top Gasparilla Bowls, no matter who the sponsor is, because they're changing it from the Bad Boy Mowers this year, I know that. But no matter what, I think you'll see at least, and you have to think this is going to crack that list as well, but at least 3 of the top 10 games. It might even be the top 5. I haven't looked at it freshly. But those attendees that were tops in the Bowl's history all involve UCF. You have to think, guys, this is going to be one of the ones that's added to that list as well. And hey, listen, this is one of those years, gentlemen, all across the nation where all sorts of weird things have happened. Statistical anomaly is an understatement. And at this point, whatever you want to say about Florida, this was going to be the year something like this would happen. Down for them a little bit. They have a higher expectation there in Gainesville, but kind of a place where UCF has been before as a G5 school when they haven't knocked it out of the park. It's one of those years where those two moons shined just so to reveal the amulet or suns, whatever you want to call it. It's an Indiana Jones reference, people. Anyways.
Which version?
I want to point out a couple of things, guys, that Kyle alluded to. 3 of the 4 top attended games in Gasparilla, St. Pete, Beautiful Brady's, insert bold name here, history, were UCF games.
So it's 3 of the top 4. Wow, I didn't realize
3
it
of
was
the
that
top
good.
4.
Cool. All right.
3 of the top 4.
Thank you.
UCF has, I believe it's 4 of the top 5. If you look at it, all the numbers, but this will be UCF's 5th appearance. That'll be the most out of any team. They had been tied with Marshall since 2018 because obviously the two met in 2019, which was the last year that this bowl played. It was supposed to play in 2020. It was supposed to be South Carolina, UAB. South Carolina had to back out because of COVID within their team, and no replacement came, so they canceled the bowl game. So technically, UCF is doing what Marshall did from 18 to 19, which is playing 2 Gasparillas back to back. But with UCF moving to the Big 12, this really becomes the last likely opportunity for the Gasparilla to bring. And this is a point that Eric made in his predictions. Is one reason why he was very gung-ho on the Gasparilla, because and sorry to steal your thunder, Eric, on this one, but UCF plays South Florida in Tampa in 2022. And do they really want to play back-to-back in the same place? Bowl teams usually don't bring teams on back-to-back years. It's why I didn't expect the Boca Raton to be an option and some other teams and other bowl games. But this really is a great fit for UCF. I mean, the Gasparilla St. Pete, insert name here, has always been a good partner as far as being local, but not being too low on the totem pole. Yeah, it's a pre-Christmas game, and pre-Christmas bowl games are kind of looked negatively. However, you still have it's very easily accessible. It's now in a great stadium. You say what you want, but Raymond James Stadium is an outstanding place to watch a game of football.
Oh yeah, venue's fantastic.
With ESPN running the show, because this is an ESPN-owned bowl, I guarantee you, it's the best production you're going to get, possible in
night
that
game
stadium.
too. By the way, prime time.
Mm-hmm. Right, and most of the games have been prime time. There was a few spattering of years, including 2019, where it wasn't, and it was a very weird time, like 2:00 on a Monday.
2:30 on a Monday. Yeah, the one we covered through in 18. Yeah, it was awful.
It was absolutely awful, but this is going to be prime time. It means late night for us, but it's going to be good football for everyone else. And, if you get a chance, go. If not, watch it on TV. But, at least, support the team. They need numbers, and this is a great way to stand up and say, hey, UCF is on its way. It's here, moving on to a Power 5 and going up against the SEC.
By the way, I just want to chime in. Gus Malzahn has tweeted. He must be a fan of Night Shift because he literally tweeted right as the shows are basically starting. So I appreciate that, Coach.
It's not coincidence.
Absolutely not. He tweets out, excited for our guys to be playing in the Gasparilla Bowl against a quality in-state opponent like Florida. Great opportunity for Night Nation to head down the road to a place our program has had a lot of success. #charge on.
That's a great description too, man. Like, as we were saying, not only is it about the numbers that UCF fans show up in, not just all over the nation, but there in particular, and their success there, quality in-state opponent. Like, say what you will about the Gators situation as far as their record or any of that. We'd all much rather see this game than UCF Marshall. And no offense to any Marshall people out there, but yeah, I think that's pretty clear. And listen, maybe Gus just confused the start of our show with our time. Andrew's contribution certainly makes that a possibility. So at the end of the day, listen, I'd love to see that from Coach, and I think that's a great assessment of the bowl in general.
All right, here's some comments. We got a lot of comments coming in. Fallen Hero, base legend going, FLFG, let's effing go. He goes,
all I can think of is Tom Brady saying that.
Right.
Me too. I think he's got that.
Coincidence, Tampa guy, enough said.
Yeah. Ooh. There you go. Now, he does ask a statement here. Winner is the best team in Florida. Reaction to that?
I can't argue that. You want to be the best, beat the best, and, you settle on the field. Sure, UCF may have a better record, win or lose in this game, but, superiority comes on the field. If you're matched up, the winner gets the bragging rights.
No, you mean actually try and decide something on the field. Wow, looks like the College Football Playoff Committee agrees with you for the first time in years, Drew. Anyways, no, what?
Blind squirrel finds nut. Details at 11.
I just had to take that spare shot. You set me up too good, brother. No, but yeah. See, here's the thing. I hear that, but by the same token, one has to consider what UCF may not have on the field. And now, granted, it's going to be balanced out with Florida. They already have a number of transfers that have left because of the recent coaching change there. Billy Napier being introduced surely won't coach the bowl game. I know that, but there's already movement in the transfer portal with some of these guys. And not to mention, they probably have some pro prospects or something like that that are going to sit the bowl out. So that comes into play. Well, as on the UCF side, will Isaiah Bowser be playing? Will Matt Lee be healed up well enough? Will he take the field, or is that too much of a health risk? There's a whole lot of other questions that either side could pull. But to Eric's point, whoever wins is going to talk trash and declare to be the best in the state anyway. So,
and rightfully so.
And well, it'll be the court of public opinion via Twitter, depending on how the game goes. And for those of us analysts who know better and don't just go off of knee-jerk reactions, bing, what? Nothing for the plug? But it has remains to be seen before I will declare that definitively. But off of instinct, sure, that's what's going to happen.
I got a question here. JP Gilbert chiming in. It's a big deal when my boy JP Gilbert chimes in.
The Citronaut mascot is not on the line in this game.
Correct.
No, he does not ask about that, but don't worry, that's coming. He asked the question, what do you think the attendance will end up being? Look, I think this is going to be a sellout. The thing that I'm interested in, guys, what do you think the percentage is going to be between UCF and Florida? Because I think UCF fans will come in droves. I'm not sure. Do you think Florida fans will show up, or do you think they're going to take the blasé, like, we don't care? I think UCF fans. What's you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I'll go first because, Drew, you're more educated on it, and you can make me look bad. That's fine. No, for my instance,
oh, that's not new.
Look at this guy. Anyways, give him a minute. He's only this happy because he's got his Buckeyes playing Utah. There's excitement.
Oh boy, there we go. Smack talk beginning here.
No, but in all seriousness, like, I feel like you're going to have some Gator fans travel. It is, after all, only say 4 hours. But UCF's closer, and the UCF's traveled better going to the Fiesta Bowl, setting records at the Peach Bowl. And oh, by the way, we talked about the attendance at the Gasparilla already. But for my money, I'll give Florida some credit for traveling at least relatively decent. Who knows? They were this close to not getting a bowl at all. There's that to think about. So with all that in mind, I'm going to go 60-40 fan base wise in favor of UCF. But I don't think Florida's just dismissing it out of hand. And there's going to be a blasé blue blood element, sure. But I think more of them will show up because, hey, after all, who wants to sit around the in-laws that much around Christmas? I'm just saying.
Drew?
Yeah. And the irony is I'm at an in-law vacation right now for my mother-in-law's birthday. So I'm already with the in-laws. I'm getting it out of the way now. So for bowl time, I'm perfectly free and available. Florida's fan base is generational. We can't argue that, and that's where UCF is working towards. But it takes time, and they're not there yet. That's just the timing thing. You got a 100-year head start. You're going to have generational fan base. This is an opportunity. If the big donor fans don't come, others will. You're in Tampa. You're in a very accessible area. You've got Naples and Fort Myers can make the easy drive up. Bradenton, Sarasota. Then you go all the way up to Ocala, maybe even into the Gainesville area. So you're kind of in a central location that can bring a lot of fans in. And Florida has them. And people who don't normally go to games may use this as an opportunity to go to a game because of availability. It's hard to get tickets to Gator home games. Either from the travel aspect or people just jack the prices up and make it unwieldy. I still think UCF's going to show up. They're going to take fans are going to take this game seriously. It's not Marshall. It's not Ball State. It's not Podunk University. It's the University of Florida. And, that comes from being a little brother school for a very long time. And hey, I was, my brother's 5 years older than me. Guess what? I grew to be taller than him. So, younger
Nice.
brother can become the bigger guys at one point. It just may take some time. And this is a good step in that right direction. Yeah, UCF struggled a little bit, but this is a right Florida team for the picking. I still think it's not going to be quite 50-50. I think Florida may still have a slight advantage just by sheer numbers of people out there. But I'm thinking maybe 55-45. It's going to be pretty close.
Hey,
but both schools will sell out their allotments.
I agree.
And that's going to make it for a great environment and an atmosphere. I think that makes the bowl game, especially in December bowl games, that's what makes it special. The three of us have covered bowl games. Kyle, you and I have covered a lot of the Orlando bowl games. I think we're there for that Michigan-Alabama game. That was special. That environment was special. I was there when Notre Dame played Florida State about a decade ago in Orlando. It was special. I think matchups make a bowl game in these days. Unless you're in January, obviously that's different. But I think in December, I think the days of, this December bowl game is more important than the other bowl game. No, the matchup makes it special. And I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere that night for that game. Something that bowl game has never seen and will likely never, ever see again.
I don't know about never. Well, actually, let's put it this way. The good thing about air quotes declining programs in the state is that as they decline, they'll have their way on the way out to get into that bowl again. So perhaps, you'll see more appearances from the U of M there in the future, or, FSU perhaps. Of course, I kid mostly, but in a situation like that, where there's a change of power in the state potential, and, those schools that are going to be replaced within the state as power changes hands amongst the schools are opportunities for that bowl to clean up. They're going to use the business model that the Clippers used to utilize back in the day before they became competitive. Like, think back to like the 90s, where they were just a joke, and not just little brother, but sibling, but child, let's say to the Lakers. We're just going to be there because we're in LA, and at some point we're going to sell out when other good teams come to town. This strategy is, hey, listen, we're in Florida. Somebody's going to do bad at some point, but they're still going to have that name that's popular in the state, and we're going to cash out at that point when they need us to have that bowl opportunity. And not to mention, no one's going to skip it at the recruiting. Hello,
Recruiting, that's a great point. That, say what you will. I mean, recruiting will definitely be a big push in that game. It always is when you have in-state games and things like that. By the way, you got some other comments. Mike Jody saying, I know people that were almost 700th in line for tickets 10 minutes after UCF posted their ticket line. I'm going to say this again, and I know people are going to disagree with this. Outside of the New Year's 6 bowl games, this is the biggest UCF bowl game ever. And I'm going to tell you why.
It's kind of an easy
Well, no, because some people are going to argue, well, what about the Georgia Liberty Bowl game? That's great and all. This thing, there's so many connections between the two schools. People know each other from these schools. This is bigger than the South Florida game. This is bigger than any other non-New Year's 6 bowl game. This is to me the future of UCF scheduling. I think Terry Mohadra and UCF will be scheduling Florida, Florida State, and Miami, which is why I am okay with South Florida being off the schedule, because I think UCF fans would rather play Florida State, and Miami every so often than playing USF every year. And I think this is the first step in that gear. And it's kind of ironic because there was all this argument about Florida and UCF and 2-for-1s and neutral fields. And here we are. We're playing in Tampa. And you know what's going to happen? Everybody's going to have a good time.
Oh, that's the facts of the case. And you make the point about growth and all that, Elo. I would argue at this point, you mentioned the future of scheduling. Heck, it might be time in general as UCF grows to find a new rival, because what's the point if they're a stepchild for the rest of your life? They have to be a threat for it to be a rivalry, right? And it'd be nice. UCF's goal in this game, I'm just going to say it outright. They don't necessarily need to win it to look good, right? They just need it to be close. And look, they can spin the narrative from there. Hey, listen, we got an SEC coach in his first year and made it close against the Gators, and we have all these people missing, and Dylan Gabriel left just before it started, and all this other what have you. All these, you could call them excuses or reasons or whatever you want, but all this stuff that they could spin to show potential in this program.
I gotta disagree.
knew
You
you
have
would.
to win this game. You have to win this game. One, this is a 6-6 Florida team. This is not a
Which, by the way, Drew, I'll let you finish. Mike Doty has chimed in, and I don't know if both of you heard. Apparently, Anthony Richardson will not play in that game. Apparently, he's having meniscus surgery. So,
and that's big. That's
that is
very
huge news if accurate, because he's by far the better quarterback. Part of the reason why Dan Mullen got fired is he kept playing the wrong quarterback. If Emory Jones is going to be the starter, Drew, that to your point, this game is a toss-up here. That's a toss-up.
That kind of changes my answer too. Not for nothing. I was not aware of this yet. So
neither will I. But Mike Doty, to his thoughts on props.
But UCF has to win this. It's a 6-6 Florida team. There's no viable excuse to say, well, we got close. Moral victories don't work here.
Now, they actually do in the press. I know you don't like them, Drew, but hey, listen, the Cowboys, for example, in the NFL have been looking good just on the strength of having a moral victory in the first week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the same thing. The only difference is the NFL doesn't play in a poll system, okay? That's the thing.
It's a different monster. It's a different monster, though. As you know, Kyle, you lived it. UCF's history is all about moral victories. We almost did this. We almost did that. There was an offensive pass interference that came out of nowhere. We missed an extra point. There was all these almost. Almost doesn't cut it if you're trying to break through. And UCF's trying to break through, not just into the P5, which will come with time, but they want to break into the elite. You want to be the elite in the state, you have to win.
Oh, right, but they're not trying to break into the elite now.
Against the big schools in the state. You got to overtake them. The only way to do that is on the field because, otherwise it's all paper stuff.
I hear that. Well, you're speaking more to a kind of a playoff stance and getting into polls. You're absolutely right from that standpoint. I'm speaking more to recruiting because here's the thing, Drew. None of that part actually matters until 2023 at the latest, right? For the upcoming season, which I'm sorry, I'm assuming it's not going to happen next year, but I could be wrong. I will say that out.
No, that's pretty fair. That's pretty accurate.
No. 2023 is the realistic timetable.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean,
and that's very fair.
Okay, so for this game, you're recruiting for that, and again, with all that stuff you can list, you're trying to bring in the guys that will be protecting whoever that quarterback's going to be. You are bringing in the guys who will be getting separation in the receiver core. We haven't this year as much as we would have liked. You're going to bring in the guys that are going to replace Isaiah Bowser and that defensive line and those corners, all that. That's the goal of this game. A moral victory will work here. Now, to your point, after that 2023 piece, they better have something else for the committee. Because that's where they're trying to break through.
For everybody. Now, for everybody, they're going to eventually that but part of it is the early signing day. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. Is December 15th. That's early signing day for the 2022 class. So the majority of them are going to be signed. This actually is geared towards the 2023 class.
Yeah,
where because not only do you have this game as a springboard towards the 2022 season. So you're creating a momentum thing, and to go around and be able to say, hey, we won on the field because we got our poop together, compared to a school and a program that was in complete disarray and was basically, cannibalizing itself and people were leaving the program. You can sell that. The win would really take it to the next level and say, we've got the foundation laid here. The win is part of that foundation. Do you want to write history or do you just want to be part of history?
Sure. And listen, obviously a win would be better. Let's not get dumb here, Drew. I read the same program you do every week that always reminds us that a win is better than a loss.
I love it.
That's so great. And props to Dan for that. But what I will say is this. Do you have to win necessarily? No. I agree with you. Obviously a win is better. But if you could say, hey, listen, we were here and we still managed.
Right. It's not the end of the world. It ain't the end.
It's never the end of the world. It's never life will always move on. You'll always be able to pick up the pieces on this and be able to.
You might want to remind some of the fan base. Remind the fan base, Ledger. You might want to remind them.
Yeah. The sun will rise in the east.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Ish. But the sun will come up tomorrow. There will be a new day. Remember, December 2012 already passed. We made it.
My man. No, but yeah, not to cheapen your points, man. I'm with you on that.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, let me reset here. This is Night Shift. We're breaking down UCF going to the Gasparilla Bowl against the Florida Gators. Prime time, December 23rd at Raymond James Stadium. I'm Eric Lopez, Mr. Drew Gluchov, the star of Our Time docuseries, by the way, and Kyle Nash, star. More comments coming in. Dan Cundiff, with the UF opt-outs, there is no way UF outdraws UCF for attendance. Come on, Gus. Heal these players up. Win this thing.
I didn't realize Gus had a medical degree.
I mean, maybe he played some D&D as a kid and got some magic points and was able to use them.
Does Gus strike you as a paladin? I don't think so.
I don't know. He definitely comes as a defender. A holy defender.
Does not know what to think of this. What are these nerds doing?
What are these nerds doing? Hey, look! I mean, look at the face. Look at the face. But seriously,
with 3 weeks,
we don't know. Yeah. We don't know if there's going to be any UCF players that opt out of the bowl game. There's possible. I don't think there will be because I don't think there's any that really have high NFL prospects at this point. I mean, Kalia Davis, I thought was the best shot, and he's out anyway. Mm-hmm. So I don't think any are going to. And it's a matter of just getting healthy now. And this is the best time.
The next guy that might have been the most likely would have been Isaiah Bowser, who himself via social media has said he is returning. So, or it has been alleged that he's returning.
Yeah, and well, as I've said about many things, and I wish it was on Our Time because it was very poignant and it became very prophetic.
Here we go.
Until the guy's back behind, getting when that ball is snapped, he's not back.
Oh, right.
I've said it about some outgoing players, and I'll say it about us until he's back because we don't know how his recovery is going to be, obviously, and everything.
Right.
But until he's back, we can't assume that he is. But look, Kyle, I don't want to keep droning on, but you mentioned
the short thing I'm saying is he's not going to be there anyway with the injuries. But I'm mentioning him as the next NFL prospect.
Right, but you mentioned the running back. It goes in the running back stable, and that's where I'm kind of going at. The strength of the team is really in the running backs. You have, aside from Bowser, you have speedster Johnny Richardson, who plays a great lightning to the thunder that both Bowser and more recently Mark Anthony Richards have been delivering. That's actually where this game is going to be decided, is if the offense from UCF can establish the running game. And you mentioned Matt Lee. Matt Lee has been a valuable part, has fought through injuries, and has been raved upon by Coach Malzahn as a guy who they've had to pull him out of games because he was just hobbling around but refused to take himself out. Hey, this is the best thing you got. You got a few extra weeks. Yeah, you got practices, which is great for the younger guys, but this is about getting guys healthy and ready for that next game. The offensive line is going to be huge. We saw what happened when the offensive line was failing and Mikey Keene was running for his life. He struggled. He threw for 15 yards in the second half against South Florida. 5 completions for 15 yards. I mean, that's unacceptable. But a lot of it is these players are just beat up. This is, as Cuss said, this is one of the most beat up teams he's ever seen. And it's not for anything like bad strength and conditioning. Injuries, a lot of them are just freak things. A guy rolls up on you, you make a bad cut. Ligaments don't strengthen the same way muscles do, and they don't heal the same way. A lot of it is just freak stuff. Guy celebrates and crashes into coach and breaks a leg.
What do you mean? That's totally the conditioning guy's fault.
Yeah. But let's use the benefit of time. and hope that the training staff has some good breakthroughs and calls down the elder gods to make some unholy alliances and be able to heal these guys, because they're going to be needed against a team like Florida. And I don't buy they're not, it's a down bowl game, they're not going to care. You think they want to lose to UCF and have to hear about it? I don't think so.
Oh,
they don't want to deal with that. They're going to be ready to play this game, and I know the UCF coaching staff is going to make their players ready for this game.
Well, let me ask you both this, and we're gonna have a lot of time to break down the X's and O's in this game. We're gonna have some special shows leading up to the game with the two of you, but just kind of early thoughts. You've had about it, a little time digested, but I'm not sure that you both have seen Florida at some point during the season on TV, whatever. What are some of your thoughts from an on-the-field X's and O's standpoint that jumps out early on here?
Well, I mean, I'll lead off with this. Like, wasn't it? And Drew, you correct me if I'm wrong. You do that pretty well when I am. I
have a lot of experience.
This guy and his knee-jerk reactions, I'll tell you what. Accent on the jerk. And no. But anyways, no. Listen,
what a jerk.
But I believe this Florida team is the one that snuck back in and tried to make the Alabama game that they had competitive, right?
Played really well. A lot of people, it's the irony of all irony. They really lost by only 2. They really controlled the line of scrimmage at that game. People were like, wow, this Florida team might be pretty good. And then it went south from there.
Yeah, well, and that's the part that worries me the most is one thing I've seen being on the field. You mentioned as an example, Eric, this bowl game most recently here in town, the Citrus Bowl, I should say, back when there were still fans, was very telling with Alabama and Michigan, because while Jim Harbaugh did his darndest to keep that game as close as it was at halftime, It couldn't hold. And what I saw, the thing that jumped off the page to me, again, pardon my bias, but how much bigger Alabama's linemen were versus Michigan was off the charts. Now, granted, Florida's not Alabama. I know, Drew, even before you asked that question, I see you making the goofy face like me talking about Gus as a paladin.
That's my regular face. Face for radio, come on.
But yeah, I keep forgetting I'm the handsome one. But the thing that does jump off the page are two things. You mentioned it earlier with health and the interior line. The older members of the interior line have a history of getting abused if they're undersized up front. Doesn't happen a lot, but when they've had that situation, that has occurred in the past. Matt Lee recovering over the next 3 weeks, in my opinion, is the single biggest factor going on the field coming into this game. That trench warfare up front, I get a little worried about what Florida's going to bring for the Knights.
Drew, your thoughts?
I think Kyle is right on it. It comes back to the offensive line. This game will be made or broken in the trenches, because it's within the trenches you establish the running game. Pass protection is easier, especially for linemen that are beat up or undersized, because you're dropping back. It's an agility based technique. Run blocking is a strength-based technique. If you're undersized and you're under strength, you're gonna be exposed. And we've seen the offensive line struggle to open up lanes for running backs when they're a little undersized. And Kyle nailed it. That's where Mark Anthony Richards and Isaiah Bowser were able to be successful, because they can break a tackle. They can drag a guy, 2, 3, 4 yards downfield. Johnny Richardson basically can be caught with one arm and thrown down. Not to say he's not bad, but he's just a small running back. It just is.
He is more likely for a home run, but yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing with small running backs is you can squeeze through. I mean, that was one of the things Warrick Dunn did so well is, I believe it was about 5'8", 5'9", but he was able to squeeze through a lot of small spaces and make something out of nothing, where a 6'6" running back is going to run into a wall because he just can't get underneath it. But in the end, it still comes down to the offensive line creating the explosiveness. I see in our comments, Cossack Advisor asked, was the O-line as bad as I say? Absolutely, they were. I love the offensive line. I'm a big fan of these guys. Cole Schneider is incredibly versatile.
Yes.
I expect big things from him. Matt Lee is still a player on the rise. He did outstanding last year. He had for all things considered, he's done well this year. He's just been beat up. But this offensive line at times has been absolutely manhandled. And, you look
and
at the
that's
last
the difference, and that's a concern in the difference. I've said, people don't like the SEC and they think they get the benefit of the doubt. But Kyle, this. The difference between the SEC and the rest of college football is the line of scrimmage. It's not an accident that the SEC gets a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen drafted. And I've always
not quarterbacks, but fewer quarterbacks and also more running backs as well. It all steams from
They just get the best stuff. And I've always heard, UCF, the issue is not getting skilled talent. UCF can compete with skilled talent with anybody. It's the line of scrimmage. Yes. And I'll never forget, and Drew, you were at the Peach Bowl. I remember Scott Frost said how the reason why the key to beating Auburn was they were able to, go even in the line of play. It's like, if we could just hold them off and be even in the line of scrimmage, I like our chances. And that's how they won the game. When the reason why the SEC is successful and probably why we're going to have another all SEC national title game is of line play. And that's the reality. You can expand the playoff to 8 to 16 to 64. That's not changing anytime soon. And I think hopefully from a UCF perspective, that starts to get better when you go to the Big 12, is you get better linemen in recruiting in that regard.
Yeah, because you can teach technique. You can't teach raw size. I can't make a guy who's 6 feet into 6'4". It just doesn't happen. There's only so
you
much.
Want to borrow some? Here you go, Drew.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, really, that would be really cool, but obviously that's not how it works. And UCF has a great track record of developing, underrated, under the radar talent. Richie Grant, 2-star athlete, ended up in the NFL and one of the best to ever play defense for the Knights. That's not coincidence. They've done Kevin Smith, Blake Bortles, was barely recruited as a quarterback. You can develop him, but again, Blake Bortles is 6'5". You can't teach that. You can't teach pure size. So that's just something that UCF's going to have to pound the pavement on and do it and build over time. The fact that they're going to be moving up in profile, they're going to have more resources to kind of spread assistants and analysts around to be able to do the work, because obviously a head coach can't do it all. Is going to be invaluable. But, you got to start somewhere. Obviously, we're starting, the 2021 Gasparilla Bowl. It's the first bowl game after the announcement. I'd like to point that out. So the narrative's changed. It's a new narrative. It's no longer just G5 versus P5, a little redheaded stepchild trying to be noticed by Big Brother. No, this is a sign of things to come. This is a potential foreshadowing. Don't rest on these guys because they're coming. And you may not like it, but they're coming. And this is an exciting time. It's a very exciting time to be a UCF fan. It's a very exciting time to be, a student, a part of the athletic department. A lot of things are changing. I hope everyone gets on board, and not just in football, but the other sports, because the change is happening everywhere, and it's only going to be up. Everything is in a position to win. Now and then more so going forward. I don't want football to completely dwarf that. Obviously, it's what brings home the bacon, but the things of being a bigger lineman, better lineman, because size is one thing, but I mean, if you pick up a guy that can't move an inch to save his life, obviously size, it doesn't matter at that point. You go around him, so you got to find the right combination, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some patience needed. But, if the team can get healthy, can get the right, strategy down, Coach Herb Hand on the line, they can do something. UCF's defense has been improving every week. It's not coincidence. It takes time. We knew going in that this was a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And the offense is going through its own development. We've seen Mikey Keene improve every week. Some games better than others. However, last 4 games, 0 interceptions. Hasn't thrown a single one over the last 4 games. His decision-making is better, but, he can't do much if he's constantly running for his life. So, again, it's going to be settled on the trenches. I mean, Kyle and I both play the offensive line, so we have deep love for it. I may have put a long snapper on a picture in the article that came out recently out of a bias for being a former long snapper myself. But, I mean, it matters. It all matters. Everyone matters.
Well, no, I mean, hey, for those who haven't seen it yet on YouTube, look up Bill Belichick talking for at least 5 minutes about the importance of having a roster.
Oh, we have seen that. We have.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I melted.
I got some questions. People, somebody's brought up the fact is there concern of the narrative being about Dan Mullen being gone and Dylan Gabriel being gone? Do you think that's going to be a narrative from the national perspective leading into this game? And is there any,
it'll come up, sure. Right?
It'll come up, yeah.
I think the Mullen thing will come up more than the Dylan thing.
But they've already hired Billy Napier, who I think is actually going to be an improvement over Dan Mullen. Billy Napier's done way more with less.
Well, I've talked to this guy a couple times at the Cure Bowl, Drew, and I'll tell you, as far as guys who are called recruiters go, this dude has the personality for it, man. Listen.
Well, Eric and I had him on our short list of potential head coaches, along with Gus Malzahn. So, he wasn't unnoticed on our end.
Well, there you go. So, I'm glad to see you respected it. And listen, obviously he's not as entertaining as, like, let's say Coach Orgeron, but this is a guy who's very personable. And if he can't pass that in the press conference, how on earth are you going to do that when you're across the dinner table from a kid in his house, right? Or on a boat like T-Well allegedly is right now earlier today with a recruit. Just saying.
By the way, Drew, did you notice how Kyle just name dropped like Billy Napier? Like, I talked to him. Yeah, at a bowl game. He's a good guy. Like, I feel like he's.
Did you go have a beer with him too? Did you compare pictures of your kids?
It was a crawfish.
Listen, I feel like if you both end up covering the bowl game and Billy Napier's there, like I feel like Kyle has to introduce Billy Napier to you, Drew. I feel like that has to happen.
I did introduce myself to Coach Orgeron at the Fiesta Bowl, whatever that's worth.
Did you understand his response?
Absolutely. Look here.
Well, it helps your wife's from New Orleans.
That's unacceptable. If you do that, I will find somebody and I will tackle you. And when you say tackle, you got to hit that K really hard. Tackle, okay?
It's like the guy from Waterboy.
The problem with haters is they're going to hate.
So, wow, that's kind of wild there. Other thoughts? I'm going to just move on from all that. Recruiting in Florida is about to be insane hard. Mike Norvell at FSU, Gus at UCF, Billy Napier at Florida, and Mario Cristobal at Miami. Let me clarify. The Mario Cristobal thing is not a done deal. Latest reports is that we'll know by Monday. So depending on when you're watching or listening to this, we'll know. It's with Miami, anything's possible. I feel like we're in the mix of the U Part 3 documentaries unfolding before our very eyes with that coaching search. But anyway, what's your thoughts on that? The recruiting in the state with Gus, which, by the way, he's only played Florida once in his career because the SEC has this whack scheduling because you don't play everybody and things like that. And then Florida's going to have Billy Napier. What's your thoughts on the recruiting aspect? You buy that it'll be a lot harder there? What you think of the state of Florida from a recruiting standpoint?
Well, I don't think it's be a lot harder. Part of it is Miami has to realize what Miami is. When they were in their heyday, it was a lot different. Games weren't available for all the schools like they are now. But the truth is, they're a small little private school. They may be in the ACC, but they don't actually have as much to offer as a lot of the other schools. They don't play on campus, which most schools nowadays do. A lot of their facilities are more limited than Florida or even UCF at this point, especially on campus. So there's a reason why they haven't been producing quite as well, is they're being kind of exposed for what they are, a little private school. I don't see that changing, not even with Mario Cristobal. They're not keeping all the talent down in Miami. There's so much out there that, Louisville gets a lot, Florida State. UCF used to be able to pluck a few here and there. I think it's going to improve as the stature of the school elevates to the Big 12. But I'm not buying that the U is back. No, that's about as good as Texas is back.
Oh God,
because it's not. This is a different age. This is not 1999. This is 2021. Every FBS game and most FCS games are available to everyone to watch in some sort of medium. It's no longer exclusive, which is one of the things that Miami benefited from. There's what's the benefit of going to a UCF for as opposed to staying at the U? Can you think of any? Because I really can't. City of Orlando has a lot. There's a lot growing there. There's a chance of being able to write history instead of just being part of the legacy.
Drew's already setting up the narrative in the trash talk from when we signed that home. I'm telling you, we're going to sign a home and home with Miami, and everybody's going to be fired up. I'm telling you, he's ready.
Well, hey, I was at that both of the games of the last home and home, where in Miami there were more UCF fans in the stands than Miami fans. That was pathetic.
Well, how cool is it to set up a rivalry with South Florida that's actually in effing South Florida? Drew, you nailed
Imagine
it.
that.
Actually, funny you should mention it, because I have to get back to the original question before we went off the rails. Fun fact here. You mentioned Gus Malzahn, playing Florida once, was 0-1. He's played Florida State once. He played UCF once. South Florida once. FAU once. FIU once. The only one he hasn't played is Miami. But he's never played any Florida school more than once. It's just kind of weird. So now Florida becomes the first time they get a second team on the field from Malzahn.
I agree with a lot of that. I'll say this, though. Don't forget about the supply of football talent in the state, too. That's a huge factor, too, because there's a lot of it. But I think it only becomes more difficult to recruit in Florida from out of state. Okay? At this point, because to your point, Cristobal ain't going to save the day for Miami if he is signed. And I agree with you on that. Billy Napier is going to have to spend a lot of hours in the car, but it beats the heck out of having to spend hours on the plane and really establish himself to make himself a presence in Florida. FSU, look at their performance. I would argue at this point, as Power 5 schools go, the ACC is the stepchild. I can make a strong argument that the American in its current state, not what it will be in 2023, is better than the ACC. The ACC being that stepchild could be problematic in future recruiting.
Well, it's about, but you got to get the right coach, because clearly if you don't have, you could have the talent you want, but you don't have the right coach, you're not going to, I think that's part of the problem in this state. I don't think Miami, Florida State have had the right coach in place.
Yeah. As much as I like Norvell, that appears to be true at FSU. That's a great point.
Well, at least Norvell, the end of Norvell's season looked optimistic. We shall see. But we'll see. Now, I got a question from Tony. Is UCF's quarterback expected to start for the last time? I'm assuming he's talking about Mikey Keene. Your thoughts on that question?
I don't think he's going anywhere.
It's a
little bit of an odd question. Do I think he's starting for the last?
If I may, Drew, I think I know where he's going with this.
Are they going to get someone from the transfer portal? They're going to
exactly.
They're going to try. No guarantees.
Or remember the hero from Twitter, Thomas Castellanos.
I think he needs a year. You don't want to put a true freshman out there if you don't have to. Obviously 2019, Dylan Gabriel played as a true freshman. Of course, the quarterbacks who were on the roster, in particular, Brandon Wimbush, who was brought in the starter, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, which is nothing new than what he did at Notre Dame.
And DJ Mack was hurt at the time, too. Let's also.
Mack was hurt.
Right.
Mack was never an accurate quarterback himself. I'm sorry. His career stats say otherwise, other than the fact he put in the cheat codes in the 2018 championship game where everything went right, especially in the second half. But
you mean after it all went wrong, it went right?
Well, yeah. But I mean, UCF didn't have an accurate passer, and in the case of Gabriel's deep touch, that's a rare thing. Most freshman quarterbacks don't have that.
Very good.
So you can't really expect a true freshman to come in and play. You don't want to have to put a guy in that position. Like Keene, we've seen the progression and improvement as time gone on in real time on the field. You're not supposed to see that happen because he's supposed to be in the back developing. Right. And by the time he comes out, those problems are gone. But unfortunately, learning to pick his shots, was thrown into double coverage, triple sometimes downfield, hesitating on targets. And allowing defenses to get to pursue on receivers, and thus, potentially leading to deflections or just bad throws. That's all stuff that experience and training, teaches you not to do and makes you better. But it doesn't happen overnight. So I think at least a year, you want to redshirt Tommy, give him a chance to develop and not have to throw him to the fire if you don't have to. If they don't bring in a transfer, and I'm assuming not until they do, it's Keene's team to lose.
So it is Keene's team to lose. That is the definitive statement that I will agree with. However, Drew, listen, man, you already made the argument that proves that question of will Keene be starting next year? There's a very high chance of being no, because you just mentioned Dillon Gabriel. I don't know that we have air quotes, Dillon Gabriel in the wings, but you nor I will until we observe that spring game. Because the favorite thing that you said in that speech there was that we aren't supposed to see that. You're right. It's supposed to be off-season development. We don't know what Keene's going to look like on the other side either. For all we know, I'm not saying this is going to happen, so settle down, but the pie in the sky is he comes out and does his best Mackenzie Milton impression. Boot off the field at the Cure Bowl, changing lives the next year, okay? Again, not expecting that to happen. But we don't need life changes if the future is going to be having an Isaiah Bowser in the backfield as UCF fans, right? It's going to be something where we need him to do he needs his GED, that good enough delivery, okay? and that's going to be the
I like
key.
that.
From the hip,
Well,
son.
let me ask you both this. Is there anything Mikey Keene can do this bowl game? Remember, one of the reasons why teams like playing in the bowl games is because of the extra practice time, right?
Yeah.
Gonna get
That's the primary thing for the coaches.
Agreed. So with that in mind, is there anything he could do in this bowl game that would change your opinion about him one way or the other?
Oh, golly. Now that Johnny Richardson's involvement in this game is in question, all I would have said at one point is developing chemistry with him that he never got. Other than that, I got a whole lot of nothing.
Drew?
I don't think so. You use Mackenzie Milton. Mackenzie Milton was terrible in the Cure Bowl, just absolutely dreadful. I don't think that really changes anything. When we talk about, Dillon Gabriel's first year, he completed less than 60% of his passes. Mikey Keene, a little over 63.5. So, the accuracy is there. He just needs to be a little more decisive in his throws. We've seen that improve throughout the season, and just continue on the decision-making. We've seen improvement on that, less interceptions. So I don't think anything that really happens in the bowl game is going to really change the big picture. Remember, bowl games are exhibition games when you come down to it.
Correct.
And that's why you see opt-outs in lower level bowl games that aren't for a national title. Guys have, who opt out feel they have bigger fish to fry. They've got something else that they're working towards. And the way the market is now, I don't blame anyone for opting out. They're doing what they feel is best for them. It's kind of like a player, deciding to transfer somewhere else and utilizing the portal. Hey, you do you. That's your decision to make. I may agree, I may not, but you're going to do what you feel is best for you, and I hope the consequences are worth it. So in this, I think as long as he keeps on trajectory of working on making better decisions, not putting the ball on the ground, just those kind of key fundamental things, I think it's going to be a positive at that point.
By the way, people asking both of you your opinion on Taylor Martinez, who's in the portal, the Nebraska quarterback. There's been a lot of talk about him on the message boards, on social media, about him and UCF. Are you guys buying that? Like, I was not a Taylor Martinez fan. Drew, you and I have had a lot of talks about Taylor Martinez.
It's Adrian Martinez. Taylor Martinez Taylor Martinez was another quarterback who played at Nebraska.
I get
years
confused.
Ago.
Whatever. Yeah, right. You're right. It's a good
well,
point.
actually, this was Adrian Martinez's best year, and they were a couple of bad bounces away. But the problem with Adrian Martinez is he seemed to always find a way to do just one thing wrong, and they lose the game. And I'm not sure if that's him or if it's Murphy's Law that's still scoffing at Scott Frost for having a business meeting in Philadelphia. I'm not against a player coming and having a chance to compete. I would take him 10 out of 10 times over Brandon Wimbush, who I was not happy about the transfer for the reasons that were easily exposed of the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, he was basically 50-50 passer. Martinez is a little more of a playmaker, does a little more with less than a Wimbush does. But on the other side, do you want someone who's going to step in and potentially, take valuable playing time from a player that you want on the field growing? So it really depends on the direction Gus Malzahn wants to go with. He has a particular guy he looks for, and that fits a certain offensive style. Adrian Martinez was brought in for more of a spread at Nebraska. Hasn't quite worked out, but that's still the type of quarterback he was made to be. Would Malzahn's more traditional offense, more balanced offense really be the best place for Adrian Martinez? I'm not totally sure on that. I'm not 100% sold on that, but I would be willing to give him a chance to prove otherwise.
Yeah, I think fit's an issue too. That's a great point, Drew. But I don't know. I was never super impressed with him myself. I would roll the dice on Keen improving in the offseason before bringing him in via the transfer portal. That would be my call.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, I apologize to Taylor Martinez for confusing him with Adrian Martinez. I'm old. I'm getting old. I have gray hair.
Hey, you're just past the whole Scott Frost
about
Nebraska
that gray
thing.
hair. I guess I'm not one to talk.
Yeah, I don't see what you guys are talking about.
I don't know, but isn't it? I mean, can they
Aren't
wait?
you the oldest one too?
No non-committal. I'm not going to comment on that. But can they wait on? Can you wait though on the transfer portal? I mean, it's kind of early, right? I expect more quarterbacks to enter the portal. I feel like every time there's a quarterback that enters the portal, people jump on. Like when Bo Nix, apparently there's rumors that he might enter, and they're like, oh, well, it's a Gus connection. I don't think that has a shot in heck of coming here, considering that didn't end well at Auburn. So
no, I agree. I totally agree. I don't think that's a good fit at all. There was a lot of controversy on Nix being named the starter in the first place. Rumor mill says he was not the preferred guy, and the boosters started dictating what Malzahn had to do.
My son needs to play quarterback. You understand?
Yeah, we're talking some old Southern style. That
would do it
bleeds
in
over
the
in
Southeastern
Texas.
Conference. Yeah.
Now look here.
Yeah.
I don't think Nix is a good fit at all. I don't really want him. I'd rather roll the dice with the development of Mikey Keene at that point instead of a one-year rental on Nix, who sometimes looks great and sometimes looks absolutely horrendous. And
yeah, let's not leave out Castellanos. No. Maybe he'll develop a particular way too, right?
We don't know, especially with freshmen coming in. I mean, with transfers, we know what they are because we've seen them for at least a year on the field, for the most part, especially these bigger name guys. If I'm correct, the Wimbush transfer happened in January that he came to UCF. So there's time. December is for the freshmen, and then early 2022 is for the transfers.
I'd be very careful making blatant statements like that about known quantities, sir, because Joe Burrow was a thing. No offense.
Joe Burrow did not have on-field time like some of these other guys. He was not viewed as a huge transfer.
Exactly. No. If your statement,
I'm talking more like
a
Martinez, a Bo Nix,
the big name,
a Spencer
transfers.
Rattler, a big name.
Right.
Burrow wasn't a pushover, coming from Ohio State, but he wasn't the starter. He wasn't the backup. He was the third string guy.
Right.
So it didn't have the fanfare that some of these other guys like Brandon Wimbush and stuff. Guys who were starters who had on-field tape time of a meaningful amount. So let me clarify on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's all I'm setting the table for.
Speaking of Ohio State, Drew, this is right up your alley here. Mr. Hampton, 913, asking, what about the quarterback from Ohio State who just entered the portal?
Oh, good luck. UCF doesn't have enough money to bring him in. I would love if he would come in because he's really talented.
Well, explain for the audience that may not be aware what people are talking about. Explain the scenario there.
Quinn Ewers enrolled early at Ohio State, skipped his senior season because he wanted to start making money with the NIL. Feels that he needs to get on the field quicker. CJ Stroud has a firm grip on Ohio State's quarterbacking and will not be giving it up anytime soon. So he's looking for somewhere else to make some coin. Unless Walt Disney Walt Disney World is planning on rolling out the red carpet and giving him some 6+ figures of endorsement money, there is about a 0.000, maybe a few more zeros, 1% chance that he comes to UCF. I put the 1 in there because you can never say never. That's a fallacy. But he's not coming here. I'm sorry. He was the number 1 recruit last year out of high school. As much as we all love in UCF and we're all alums of the school, let's put the tinfoil hat down and be realistic. He's not coming.
If we're in 2023, I'd put up a fight on how you can make the argument, but no, not.
It's not happening right now. I'm sorry, guys. It's just not. I wish I had better news to tell you. I really wish I had.
Drew wants it bad. We know this.
I want it bad.
Come on, Drew. You got pockets. You're a star of a docu-series on ESPN Plus. Art time. You're telling me you don't have the deep pockets to make it happen?
Tell him that
I'll
his jersey.
give you my daughter's sunglasses.
Tell him that his jersey will make it into your museum, aka your closet.
I'll pay you in colored pencils and crayons.
It belongs in the museum.
This is Night Shift. For those just chiming in here, Eric Lopez, Drew Gluchov, Kyle Nash. You think they're bickering now? Wait till they, later in the closer to bowl game when they have more time to talk about this game and bicker to each other.
This isn't bickering. This is Sunday afternoon.
It's true. Make sure you follow us YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com. We'll have a lot of coverage of this bowl game. Nighthawk 811 chiming in saying, Eric, Andrew, and Kyle rock. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Touche. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Deal there. Let's see. But people are a lot of questions about the quarterback room here. Mikey King, Thomas, where do you guys are concerned about the quarterback room? This is going to be the most dominated offseason question, right? About UCF is going to be the quarterback room.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because quarterback. I get it. People feel good about this defense, although I could certainly ask questions about the partners out coming and how they're going to fill those certain gaps. But for me, I would think it starts with the quarterback room because, again, our receiver core the past 3 years has always lost an NFL caliber guy, right? Running back core is not looking as good, minus the Bowser situation. And the O-line, like we talked about. So it's got to start somewhere, and you need that staple guy, right? Now, say what you will, Gus has shown he's willing to work in the recruitment portal, okay? On Twitter, he's had more boom than anything you find on the 4th of July because, that's what he does when he gets a recruit. He says boom on Twitter, for those that haven't figured that out yet. So no, as far as the offense is concerned, that is the big story. And especially since, even though Drew is right that it's Keene's job to lose, that door is pretty damn wide open right now. So yeah, of course, that's where the talk's going to go.
There's never any guarantees. If you come into camp in 2022 and you absolutely lay an egg, you're going to put the best guy in place to help your team win. You'd be irresponsible to do otherwise. There's never any guarantees. Ewers found that out the hard way. There's never any guarantees. Joe Burrow found that out. Jalen Hurts found that out. Insert plenty of transfers where there's no guarantee you're going to be the guy and stay the guy.
Yes.
If someone comes in, I think Jalen Hurts is the best example. It's hard to continue to be the guy. The next guy can be even a better guy and take it from you. Any good coach is going to put the best possible guy on the field because the goals. You play to win the game. You want to win. Sentimentality doesn't win games. It's the same comment I said time and time again about Mackenzie Milton. He was a great quarterback. Unfortunately, has not been the same since his injury. Not a surprise. Alex Smith wasn't either coming back, and he was a shadow of himself. It was almost depressing to watch. It was great to see him come back for that first game. Almost willed a team to win, and then the rest of the season was a little depressing because
be fair though,
you want more.
He survived a hit from Aaron Donald and made it to the playoffs. Let's not completely.
That is true, but you want these guys who come back from these catastrophic injuries and stuff to continue to grow and be better, and you don't want to see them kind of drop off. But we should have kept him and put him in the game. Sentimentality doesn't win games. You put the guy who is the best player to win. And while Milton's future is in coaching, I think his playing days are done outside of, what was that, one more game, Eric, that he's going to be playing?
Yeah, it was announced. He announced this too, right? Right at the bowl announcement, he'll be playing in the Hula Bowl here at the Bounce House. Not a very fitting way to end there.
Very fitting way. I think the UCF faithful will come out in droves to wish him Godspeed on the next chapter of his career, because I think it's pretty safe to say he knows his playing days are done. But hey, the leg may not work the same way. The brain works just fine. I think he's got a very bright coaching future ahead of him. It's just sad it had to come to that.
By the way, the Tampa Times are reporting that Greg Knox, who's been the interim head coach at Florida, will coach the bowl game. He'll be the head coach for the bowl game. So he will be the interim head coach. So
that is correct.
What is your thoughts on that? An interim coach here in a bowl game. So what, because these
not
guys
uncommon. Not uncommon at all. In fact, it's very common. And it's the way contracts are designed. Assistant contracts are 1-year deals. They aren't treated like head coaching jobs. So those guys are going to coach through the bowl game, and then if it's a 1-year deal, then they're going to be released at the end of the season. It'll be up to the new coach to decide to retain them. Or in the case of what happened with Randy Shannon, this past offseason going into 2021, there may have to be a buyout involved, similar to with a head coaching job, and get paid to go somewhere else or do nothing, which may or may not be financially beneficial. But it's not uncommon. What makes it interesting and actually more difficult for established coaches is to scout and scheme against an interim coach. Especially, you only have one game of film of what he's planning on doing and how. Is it going to be similar? Is it going to be different? This is what actually came back to haunt US against the USF.
Correct. Yeah.
Defensive coordinator canned. You came in with two guys. You really didn't know exactly what they're doing. And Coach Malzahn said, hey, they threw stuff at us we weren't expecting, and we had trouble adapting. That's one reason why Keene was running for his life. They were able to scheme under secrecy. The stuff, you had a whole season's worth of film. None of it applied other than, this player's good, this player's good. But as far as his scheme and execution, I mean, it was a blank slate he was coaching against.
Yeah. But do you think that gives UCF an edge from these guys are probably worried about what their future is as a staff. I mean, from a preparation standpoint, could that give UCF an edge? Some people are asking.
Well, I'll let Kyle go first.
Yeah, one can't rule it out, but by the same token, I don't know how much Florida scouting, that UCF has done to this point, and what you can work with on that. So I would say this, because the pool of film is already relatively limited on what they would be facing. It's not like you could take a camera into the practice field. There's not a Bill Belichick sighting here anytime soon.
Challenge accepted.
Right. Yeah, there you go. No, I could certainly, Drew said it just as well. Coach Malzahn cited it himself going into that USF game the Monday before at the press conference. I don't know that I would right out say it's a leg up per se, because I don't know how much you could scout UCF as a squad either. How many different lineups? How many different players? It's Gus's
which players are hurt.
Correct. Exactly. Listen, the dang IR, the joke I keep making in IRs is in articles is that the IR is so long it includes the damn coach. Okay. So, you have that all going on. I think there's a certain amount of, what's his word, vagary going on. And then that's not even accounting for players that have already pulled out of the bowl or hit the transfer portal too, right? So scheming for bowls is kind of an outright cluster to start with. Does it add a degree of difficulty? Yeah, I would say so.
There's two trains of thought here. And part of it is because Florida's already hired their head coach. It's one, you're playing for your job. You have a chance to be on this staff. You're playing for your spot. So those coaches are going to work their tails off. The second one is they've been informed that they're not being retained. There's a possibility they mail it in. Obviously, you don't want to be too obvious with that because that will hurt you professionally. But the guys who are going to be around are probably going to put in a little bit more than the guys who are not. Some will go through the motions a little bit more. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on Billy Napier being hired. The fact they're running with an interim coach, and these guys really may or may not know what their future holds. I think that can actually work either for or against UCF. But we won't know until closer as to who's being retained and who's not. When Scott Frost left for Nebraska, the assistant coaches were still here.
Right.
It was actually the agreement was only for him. And so when they negotiated that he was going to coach the game, it was all about him, and he had to go do double dose recruiting and we saw him get worked into the ground. So obviously we're not going to see any guys probably bust their tails to that level,
right?
But if they want to be a part of a 2022 Florida coaching staff, they're probably been put on notice of, hey, how you do is going to reflect, whether you're going to be here or not. But I guarantee there's guys who aren't going to be retained regardless of what happens. And that may affect them, even subconsciously, may impact the amount of work they put in. Because they're right, wrong, or indifferent. There's always bias in everything that we do, and how we think and feel does come out in the actions that we take. So it could lead to just a way I say something, or the way I act, or the way I look at something. But it will, knowing what my future holds will impact what I do.
Speaking of the future, I'm reading. It is now reported that Mario Cristobal will meet with his Oregon team tonight. This is Sunday night. 7:30 Eastern time. He is supposed to meet. It is now expected that he will be the new head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. $8 million a year is the word that's been floated out there. There are also reports
we're in the wrong
out of Miami.
Profession.
Seriously,
it's only a good job if you can get it, partner.
It's also now been reported at some outlets that Miami reached out to Mario Cristobal in November. Remember the speculation when the AD got fired at Miami and they were talking buyout with Manny Diaz, and that didn't happen. Now the dots are starting to connect. The belief is that Miami reached out to Mario Cristobal as early as November. We're seeing this more and more. People give Scott Frost a lot of crap for that at 17, but this is the norm, guys, in college football now, and it's because of the early signing period. Thank you. Bring that back to February, or you're going to continue to have this nonsense, and if what's going to end up happening is you're going to have interim coaches coaching the playoffs when they expand.
Oh, yeah. The coaches totally stole this from the players when it comes to this, late decision, changing of commitment stuff. Absolutely. It was
and then having these discussions while you're in the middle of a season under contract, in the pros, you can't do that. It's called tampering.
Correct. Well played.
It's dirty. It's absolutely dirty. You had when UCF was on the receiving side of that from Scott Frost for multiple weeks, he knew he was on his way out, and still it's like that's so disingenuous. let's see, when Brian Kelly announced was leaked that he was going to LSU, I don't remember what assistant it was, but one of them just came out of the doors and says, I feel like an a-hole because I just walked out of a recruit's house when I found out the news that Kelly was leaving. It's like, oh crap. Well, this is awkward.
What happened was,
that's kind of messed up. I mean, we're talking kids' lives here, and this stuff, is going on. They've got to change the system. I like the idea of a time for transferring, where you play your season. There's a financial commitment by the school, which on the flip side, there's a commitment by the player to receive that financial commitment from the school. It's part of the deal. You work for me, I work for you. It's a partnership, and your job is to fill your end of the partnership. And it's no different than a coach fulfilling his season. If you want to leave, that's fine. You pay the buyout, but leaving during the season, or the bowl game is still part of the season now. Yeah, it's an exhibition, but the season's not over. It's not over until the last game has been played in January. That's when the season's over. It's true. The season's not over until that last game is played.
According to what document or what
assistant
policy?
coaches' contracts run until January.
Okay.
So if assistant coach signs a 1-year deal, runs into January when the season's over, then the head coach should honor that 1 year. Same thing.
Yeah, if it's like that in the contract, I'm with you on that. I wanted you to make sure you cited that so we were all clear on that, right?
And I want to say that is why I don't agree with people that are negative towards Scott Frost because he left. You consider, look what happened with SMU and Sonny Dykes in that situation. That team folded.
Oh, gosh.
With the whole situation.
Broke like a twig.
I don't think he gets enough credit, and the players don't get enough credit for how UCF was able to move forward. And Scott was recruiting and going back and forth and coaching UCF. And credit to Billy Napier. We mentioned earlier, he helped Louisiana win the Sun Belt Championship, even though he was, he could have easily bolted. So there's a lot of issues in this sport. I know everybody wants to focus on the playoff and the issues with that, but there's a lot of issues beyond the playoff in college football that needs to be addressed, because we can't have coaches keep preaching about, hey, it's about the team and it's about commitment, and then you're bailing at the first sign for a big man. I'm not, it's a big contract, I get it, but this is not right.
See, here's where I don't buy with that particular concept too, Elo. Like, it's all about, the coaches say team and they do this. Right. But while they're on your team, you ask them to go into people's houses and basically glad hand, press the flesh and lie to a certain extent to get a guy to come to school. That coach goes in there to that potential student athlete's house. That student athlete, he doesn't know if he's his yet, right? To go in there, and it doesn't matter, if it's the best dinner he's ever had or not. Coach is going to say it is, right? So it's that kind of thing right there. You're asking them to be diplomats, ergo politicians, for the school when it's happening. And then you get shocked when they're able to play the system against you as well. You hired that. If you're shocked by it, # you problem.
You problem. Yeah.
You problem. Very good.
In fact, I think Kyle makes the earliest part of that. I think Kyle makes the best point. You go in there and you basically give a bold-faced lie. Now go sleep on that. Some of us actually care about integrity. Maybe that's why we're not in college coaches, because we don't want to lie to people.
Because you're not for sale like that. Exactly, Drew.
Yeah, we're not corporate whores who basically get sold out on that.
But think about what we almost had here, right? Like, if Cincinnati would have lost, or if Georgia would have beaten Alabama, you could have had a Notre Dame team in the playoff when their head coach bolted for Baton Rouge the week prior, and you would have, they hired Marcus Freeman quickly, which I think was a great move. But that's where we're at right now, and
it's just that's awkward. I mean, it's just flat out awkward, and Oklahoma had a 10-win season, and the guy still jumped ship. I mean, we live in some weird times. It doesn't matter if you're a blue blood like Notre Dame or Oklahoma. No coach is safe from the power of the dollar.
Why aren't we talking about Oregon in all of this, right? They just lose their conference championship while Cristobal is in the news, right? No,
I kind of view Cristobal similar to to Scott Frost.
True,
As
but the
far
difference
as
is
why
Frost
he's leaving.
won his game, so no one remembered it, right?
Oh, we remember it.
Well, you see what I'm getting at, though.
It ended better. Anyway, we got plenty of time to discuss all that. Let's wrap this up here. Give me your final thoughts here. We got a ton of time to talk at length about this game and this matchup. And we're going to have a lot more programming, our regular podcast. We're going to do some more specials of Night Shift as we get you leading up to the bowl game. Give me your final thoughts here, starting with you, Kyle.
Listen, at the end of the day, the big winner for this is the Gasparilla Bowl, okay? This is the kind of stuff they want to see happen. And the whole reason, if by accident, way back when it was the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, as my good friend Drew cited earlier.
The insert name here bowl.
Correct. That whole, the whole concept of the St. Petersburg Beef O'Brady's, yeah, let's just go with insert name. But what, the INB, there you go.
I'm just mad I didn't jump on the Bitcoin part when it was $300 a coin.
Oh, here we go. Listen, stop adhering to stereotypes. I have a point here. The whole piece with that investment going on, what I'm trying to say is, whoever is running the Gasparilla Bowl, let all the people make fun of it that you want to. That committee is going all the way to the bank with it, and it starts especially this year as the power struggle in the state of Florida goes. I'm just saying.
I agree. The bowl is the biggest winner. This is the best matchup the bowl has ever had. This is one of those ESPN owned ones where it's all about viewership. They never really cared as much about selling tickets because that's not where their money is. That's why the ESPN bowls trade teams all the time, especially last year, which was the first year in their new bowl contract, which is a very convoluted pool setup that allows a lot of movement to basically maximize for themselves. But, the low and mid-tier games, they need a hook. They need a story. And there was no better matchup for the Gasparilla Bowl than UCF versus Florida. I would have loved to have seen UCF Auburn play for different reasons, because that's a great story in itself.
Gus versus the old team playing both sides of this, or coaching at some point on both sides of the sideline. You couldn't beat it, buddy.
And that's why I thought I would love to have seen that in Birmingham, and I was kind of trying to will it to existence, but the cards were stacked against it.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been there in person.
That's okay, because I want to live, and I don't want my wife to murder me. But we would have sent you instead, and I know you love to travel. But that's not here nor there. In the end, the fans will get to win. They get to see this matchup. This has been a talked about matchup. Obviously, there are upcoming matchups on the docket, at least through signed contract. We will see UCF versus Florida twice in the 2020s instead of just once, and then twice in the 2030s. So look, now it's a 2-1-1. So I think we can take that and run. Let's accept that for the win that it is. We get to see the old guard versus the new blood, and see if the power shift can start, today, now. Can we see the shift start now instead of having to wait a few years into 2024, I believe it is, when the first game takes place. So the bowl wins, the fans win. The only people who don't win are the ones who are bitter that this game's happened, i.e., Gator fans.
Hey, again, that's what comes with entitlement. You were this close to not having a bowl game.
All right, we got one last question we're going to sneak in. By the way, thank you to everybody who has chimed in. This has been a busy show, and we're going to do more of this because I know I could sense it. I could sense the excitement here. It definitely was. This is pretty. People are excited about this matchup. Question: do we think UCF will finish the early signing period with a higher rated recruiting class than Florida, like it currently has? Anyone who wants to check that?
I'll
go on that. I'll jump on that first. I'm going to say no, but it's going to be close.
You think Napier makes up some ground here?
I think Napier does make up some ground. Remember, there are 2 signing days. There's December and there's February. So while he's talking about the early signing day in December, there's still a couple weeks. And, while he's still new, he as far as Florida's coach, remember, he's not coaching the bowl game. He's not coaching any bowl game. Unlike, Scott Frost, who had a double dip, and it actually probably hurt him in Nebraska. He can dedicate fully to Florida recruiting. and make up some of the lost ground. Remember, Dan Mullen didn't really care for recruiting. He didn't like it. I mean, he made it pretty clear that he wasn't a fan of it. Well, any head coach in college football that absolutely wants to win and be taken seriously knows nowadays recruiting and signing day stuff is actually more important than the game itself. It's really changed. It's weird. Playing the actual game doesn't matter as much as how you do in recruiting. And, we all recognize it. So I think they'll be able to make up a little bit of ground. I think they'll finish slightly ahead, not as far as Gator fans would like, but this was by far the best possible hire they could get. As we know, there was a lot of question marks, with the program in the state that was in. They weren't going to be able to lure, like Brian Kelly going to LSU. They weren't going to be able to pull that off. In fact, a lot of people trashed LSU for letting Billy Napier get away. I think he would have been great at LSU, a natural fit, considering he already knows Louisiana. But you know what?
He doesn't have to fake a Southern accent either.
We just had this conversation about coaches as politicians, y'all. Okay, just saying. Oh, I said y'all. You gonna bust me for
that? Oh boy, here we go. We've already got. It's getting already ugly. Florida, in their press release, mentioned UCF as Golden Knights.
Oh, here we go.
Well, aside from the fact that that's trolling at its best, they know. Granted, the last time they played each other was 2006. I was at that game. It sucked. But that was also the last year UCF were the Golden Knights. And they're just trolling at this point. They know it pisses off fans in the school to no end.
The trolling between the social media teams on both of these schools is going to be insane the next few weeks.
And UCF's social media team is second to none. They are going to destroy these poor suckers.
So interesting. You call out the media team as such a great thing that UCF has because they are. Listen, people talk about best in the nation when it comes to UCF and their media action. I'm not going to argue with you. It's pretty strong. And yet, you think that Florida's going to out-recruit UCF with the foundation left by Dan Mullen, who, to your point, says he doesn't like recruiting. So therefore, he's not coming out with such zingers of lines like, my mom uses Facebook, okay? That's the edge, I think, that Gus has. And this is how you get kids nowadays, is good media and fancy uniforms. I swear to God, I never cared about the Citronaut so much. But apparently the recruits do, or at least that's what people would have you believe. Here's the thing, man. They're winning the marketing side of it rather necessarily than the blue blood aspect of it. And you have to respect that, bud. This whole thing that UCF is one of the first schools to come out the whole spring game before, I forget it was this year. No, it was this year, I think, going into this season, that they had the Twitter names on the back. Man, they are leaning into this ish, and they're going to win guys over that way. Blue blood ain't going to be what it is. And Billy Napier has an awful lot of foundation to change if he wants that front to be commensurate. And I'm telling you, Drew, that matters.
Well, I mean, social media, the media teams obviously don't change with the coaching staff.
Certainly not.
UCF's social media team was better yesterday. They're better today, and they'll be better tomorrow. Obviously, that part doesn't matter. The thing is, you just can't replicate SEC, and this, that's what recruits think.
But do you need to at this point?
Well, yeah, you do. You can't replicate. That's one reason why Alabama became the dynasty is. Nick Saban was always a good coach, but he was never this dynasty. Until he was able to set. Remember, his first year at Alabama was nothing impressive. It takes a little time to get things together. Right. But remember, guys who come in a recruiting class they're not the ones who really make a difference the next year unless you're a program that's in trouble. 2015, you had a number of bad spots on UCF's team that either went off to the when graduated or just needed capping, and UCF was able to bring in a few key freshmen, a quarterback, a running back, you had some wide receivers to plug in some key areas to make the difference. But that just shows the state of the program. Florida is not that bad. Florida is a very talented program. Sure. That's people ask me, compare Florida and UCF. How's this game? Florida is the more talented team. UCF is the more cohesive team. And this is where UCF has the benefit that cohesiveness can outweigh individual talent. It's not like basketball where one guy can carry the game. But, you get a guy like Billy Napier, very respected, knows the markets, he's had targets that he went after, couldn't get him where he was at Louisiana, but could bring him in Florida. Say what you want. Florida is the flagship school of the state until it's not, and it still is, even though they've had a bad year.
But that blue blood thing also works against you too, Drew. What inspires a guy more than being told he can't make it or can't start or can't play or any sort of that? If a player gets the concept that it's a crowded room up in the SEC representative, that marketing team, that PR team, that social media team at UCF is going to step in and fill that gap to keep it, at the very least, keep it even, which you said it would be a very even conversation. I'm telling you that while tradition and prestige are important, they don't carry that same weight anymore, buddy. That's where I'm at.
By the way, for the YouTube people audience, I've posted the Florida press release. This is legit. This is their press release. I have highlighted, Drew and Kyle, you can see it right there with your own eyes. What does it say?
The Gators and Golden Knights have faced off twice in the history of the two programs, with Florida owning a 2-0 record in the series.
Well, actually, that's a very accurate statement. But the Gators and Knights have never played in football.
Good point. Well done, Drew.
Oh, my goodness. What kind of week? If this is an omen, oh, my goodness. What are we in store for,
the hate and the shade is going to be strong.
Exactly.
I love it.
This is going to be wild.
I want to see some good trolling. Hey, Eric DeSalvo, this was your turn. Start the time to return the volley. Let the wars begin.
That's a good way to end this episode right here. On that note, we have more. Trust me, folks, you're going to hear more from Kyle and Drew in the coming weeks. And I might need Bryson to host some of these just because, it's tough to referee these two.
Wait. Are we that difficult? Are you trying to say that there's too much power between Kyle and I that you can't maintain it? Are we too radical for you?
Hey, we shall see. I mean, this is on an NFL Sunday. I can't wait till you two are not distracted by the NFL and what's going to come out here in the coming days and weeks at this game.
Hey,
so
men's basketball as well. Just saying.
Yes. All right. Go ahead, Kyle. Promote what you got coming up this week on Black and Gold Banner, because you were at UCF basketball on Sunday. Oh, by the way, second week in a row, the UCF basketball home game has been overshadowed by UCF news. For crying out loud, can we give some respect to the guys? I apologize, Coach Dawkins, but a much better result Sunday. Correct there, Kyle?
Oh, absolutely. Dominated the game, 36-point victory over the college at Mary McLeod Bethune-Cookman. So, that's a good thing. And hey, I'll get more into this piece, but give credit to Johnny Dawkins in coaching this game, not necessarily because of what happened on the score, but what he did with the lineup. Definitely made great use of the turn-up game, and I'll tell you how tomorrow when I release my piece on the blackandgoldbanneret.com surrounding this game.
Very good. That's a good plug there. Drew?
I don't have a good plug.
That's a knee-jerk reaction if I ever heard one.
I got a plug for Drew. Make sure you watch all 12
Make
sure you watch 12 episodes of Our Time. Binge watch on ESPN Plus. You'll see our friend Drew there often.
It's a shame we don't have another episode of Our Time. I wanted to see The War Is Now make the show.
The war is now.
All right. Keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest. We're going to cover this bowl game in depth. We'll have our regular podcast. We're going to have some of these night shifts. These two are going to go at it between now and the 23rd. We're going to have this bowl game covered inside out. We'll have our post-game night shift. Traditionally, Bryson has told me he will join me for the post-game. There's a family feud in this side. The Turner family is now divided. Sources tell Black and Gold Banneret that the Turner family is divided with this Florida UCF game. Bryson will explain that in a future night shift or podcast. I just hope for the best for that family. But thank him for our help.
I was going to say, there's a feud in mind. It's either root for UCF or against Florida.
Sure thing, Buckeye.
Make sure subscribe to our YouTube page. Make sure you like us there. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you also subscribe to our podcast. You can listen to this on our podcast feed as well. Subscribe, give us a nice 5-star review, and we'll keep you coverage from now until the bowl game. We'll have all the every angle covered here, folks. For Drew Gluchov, Kyle Nash, Bryson Turner, who's been helping behind the scenes, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Night Shift as UCF in Florida at the Gasparilla Bowl.